Many years before his encounter with Son Goku, Cooler was still young and inexperienced. Back then, the sheer power of his father was simply overwhelming. But ever since he gained consciousness, he had been molded into a deadly machine of destruction. He remembered bruises, he remembered broken bones. King Cold looked at his elder son, and then his broken body.
Well, well, get it together, Cooler. There is no time to waste. Crawl into that healing machine, would you? And you'll be good as new in no time to start it all again.
His voice was quite merry, contrasting with the pain that he had caused him. It was almost like this was a completely nonchalant and expected reaction.
Father, what is the purpose of this?
Cold smirked, seeing that the cogs in his son's head were beginning to turn. He took a long look at his progeny before he then responded.
To show you what you can be one day with the help of good old evolution, the pinnacle of strength in the universe. We are, at least I am, built differently, and almost no one can stand in our way.
Almost?
Cooler's curiosity made him not think about the pain all that much in that moment. The smile did not leave the face of his father though, but his eyes became very whisper thin, very cold, just as his name would suggest.
There are 3 beings that it would be foolish to challenge, so you know. The first is the likes of the legendary Majin Buu. The beast of pure chaos is an inelegant, primordial entity motivated only by its insatiable hunger. Not something that is good for business, of course.
Majin Buu.
The young Cooler tilted his head.
That sounds dumb.
He uttered it, trying to crawl closer to King Cold. In response, he got lashed by his father's tail.
Chaos is dumb. That's why we exist in the galaxy, to bring order and control to the lesser beings. But that does not mean that it is not dangerous. Quite the opposite. Anything that could try to stand against our rule might not endanger us personally, but it would be incredibly detrimental to everything that we have constructed and built. Do you understand, child?
I think I do. Where is this Majin Buu?
Cooler uttered, touching his face, which now had a very elegant cut from his father's tail.
No one knows for sure at this time. In a rare example for an actual reason, the Kais locked him somewhere, the location unknown to me. And honestly, I am glad I'm not interested in this information. The risk of unleashing that thing would be not worth it.
Cold turned away in distaste and disgust.
Are you stronger than it, father?
There was no response. At first, Cooler thought that his parent had simply not heard him. But when he asked for a second time, there was another lash of the tail.
How about I tell you about the other 2,
The perfectly maintained facade of the friendliness of King Cold started to slowly crack on his face, like he was desperate to move the conversation along. At that time, when he said that the topic was over, it was over. But it was also a very enlightening moment for the likes of Cooler, as proof that even his father was afraid of something. He decided that one day he would outgrow him. He would be afraid of nothing. When he became the emperor, he would not tremble before some chaotic entity only because his predecessors had. He would not succumb to tradition and convention. Of course, then his father had to mess up everything and have Frieza take over the reins instead, but somehow things turned out well for the likes of him, Cooler. He ended up being the emperor after all. And right now, he finally understood everything. The change in demeanor, the distaste, and the fear in his father's core. Because despite having a sense of duty, this thing scared him in ways that he was not ashamed to admit. He looked around at Son Goku with the strange halo, Vegeta, Son Gohan, and that one Kai. All of them had tried to hurt this monster, and they had all failed for the time being.
Do you have any smart ideas, Saiyans?
Cooler had barely dodged a pink beam. He'd rather not find out what it did.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but my time in the world of living is limited,
Son Goku stated.
I might have something, but I doubt it'll last long enough to stop him for good.
The Supreme Kai then called in his attendant. I do have one idea. Would you say that Son Gohan is the strongest out of all of you? Debatable, said Cooler and Vegeta almost at the same time, both being quite mad at the fact of such agreement. All right, we'll be back soon, hopefully. And before anyone could protest, they grabbed Son Gohan and disappeared. Great! They took away one of our best assets right from our very nose! Cooler was getting annoyed. So we don't waste our time talking then. We attack! Said Vegeta, turning into the same form as Son Goku's son used once to defeat Cell. As much as he hated to agree with the prince again, maybe applying pressure to the beast would eventually wear it down. Though, very much like with the bio-android, it didn't seem that it could be made tired. It was not fatigued. It was quite disheartening that both his sixth form and the Saiyan transformations were not doing all that much. All the strikes against the pink body were quickly recovering, healed up in an instant. Every deformation was recovered. This rotund baby man was simply giggling like an idiot, shooting beams of energy that changed nearby rocks into sweets. Sweets! This did not wash well with Cooler. At some point, he decided to grapple Boo from behind with his head tails and tried to keep him in place. All right, Vegeta, you want to hit me? Give it all you've got, the prince smirked, sensing what Cooler was up to. Oh, your wish is my command, oh Emperor. And he happily started to charge a final flash in Cooler's direction. The Emperor was sure that he could take it, but the goal was to keep the creature in the beam always and to make sure it was truly evaporated. It was burning, but the Emperor's body was also absorbing bits of energy. The barbs at the end of the head tail started to pump destructive power into Boo's soft pink body. It seemed as if the two of them had evaporated the monster, a dual effort from both sides. Cooler was hit though quite substantially, but he was resilient enough to sustain the damage. He would live to fight another moment. Even Vegeta was somehow impressed by this sustainability and stamina. But before Babidi the Wizard could process what exactly had happened, Majin Buu had reformed completely, laughing and giggling as if nothing had happened. This was unnatural and scary, both the Prince and Emperor thought. They were not hiding their surprise and fear. What was even more irritating was that Son Goku had not transformed yet, and was not really present in the fight. It had been up to them. Until now.
So, you seem to enjoy fighting, don't you, Boo? Boo likes playing! Boo is the strongest there is!
Even the voice of this abomination was utterly jarring and hideous.
Well, it seems that neither Cooler nor Vegeta were able to actually give you the fight that you wanted. To give you a challenge almost. I don't think you're truly that bad though. You should drop listening to that shrieking baddie over there.
Boo turned his head toward Babidi for a moment. It seemed distracted. Cooler knew exactly what Son Goku was doing. He was trying to turn them against each other. That might work. Maybe the Saiyan had not lost its marbles in the other world after all.
Boo wants to beat you up first!
He pointed at Goku. The Saiyan smiled.
Well, I guess. You're familiar with that form, right?
He quickly turned into Super Saiyan 2, the form that Vegeta had used.
Well, what if I tell you? I can show you something that goes even further beyond.
Beyond? What was this blasted man hiding? Even after his death, was he still keeping aces up his sleeve? Even though he didn't have any sleeves? Cooler didn't know if he was supposed to be impressed, appalled, or infuriated. Kakarot, what on earth are you playing at? There is no form beyond this one! This was irritating the prince clearly.
Well, let me demonstrate.
And then an ungodly shout came out of Son Goku's mouth. What they all witnessed was quite spectacular, and even the likes of Cooler and Vegeta had a hard time not being blown away by this wave of energy. It was like the very planet itself was reacting to the change. The Emperor remembered how his own transformation affected the wasteland around him. It was deafening. But this was something on a whole other scale. It made his transformation almost look like a drop in the ocean. It would be infuriating if it hadn't been so spectacular. Cooler looked to the prince, who seemingly had a very similar reaction. Son Goku had, once again, left them for dust. Though the change was complete, the Emperor could not notice some similarities in the hair and the headdress. After the transformation was done, the Saiyan decided to take the initiative within the battle and caught Majin Buu by his antenna and punched him around repeatedly as if he were just a practice bag of some sort, like a test of his own strength. The monster had finally shown some signs of wear. Seeing that, Cooler and Vegeta decided to join in on the beating.
I can't keep this forever, you know. This may drain the remainder of my time here, my energy on Earth.
Then we'd better not waste any further time,
Cooler said, launching a powerful blast at the creature. It was clear that Majin Buu was taking a considerable beating from them this time. He could hardly respond. The issue was, though, is that they had reached an impasse of sorts. He was able to regenerate everything they threw at him, even with it being locked out of attacking. Barbary was starting to get angry and scared, but for now, he didn't seem to be aware of what was going on. Well, their efforts were in vain, clearly. If anything, they were buying time for the Kais or Son Gohan to do whatever they were doing. Cooler then hypothesized that because the Kais were able to seal this thing once, maybe they could be trusted to figure out a way to do so for a second time. But still, his resolve was weakening, as even Son Goku's strongest form wasn't able to do any lasting damage. Maybe this blasted thing was just simply immortal. He also realized that their advantage might be gone once Son Goku had had his power drained. Suddenly, the strongest Saiyan just stopped fighting. What? What was going on?
Oh my, you're truly something. I really thought I could defeat you. Well, it turns out I can't.
What are you doing, Kakarot? Vegeta's eyes narrowed.
Nabu, eat you!
The creature clapped his little hands, hidden in these weird mittens. Listen, I can get you an even stronger warrior in 2 days if you promise not to kill anyone. How's that sound for you? The request confused Boo, who scratched his head.
What are you doing, that fat pink oaf? Just destroy them already!
Babidi was getting antsy, but Goku was smiling slightly.
Even stronger? Boo having fun?
The monster scratched his head.
Stop talking to him, just kill him!
The wizard was getting above his head. Cooler looked at the creature, deciding to build upon what the Saiyan was trying to do.
Are you going to take this, Majin Buu? You are clearly superior to that little screaming flea over there.
That kind of flea?
The blob was confused.
In this case, let's say, no.
Cooler glared at Babidi. The Emperor could see panic on his face as the baby man wrapped his arms around his neck. When you squeeze something hard enough, it usually tends to pop. Vegeta looked at Goku and Cooler.
I really hope you know what you two are doing. Are we going to just leave him here to his own devices? Really?
The strongest Saiyan ignored that remark for now. 2 days. No killing.
All right, see you in 2 days.
Boo waved at them and just left, like a child who was excited for yet another playdate.
So, remind me again. What is the plan exactly?
Said Cooler, reverting to his fourth form.
I don't got much time left. Well, I'm not so sure what the Supreme Kai is planning. We can use the time chamber to prepare Goten and Trunks.
Wait, you mean the future one, or... Vegeta gritted his teeth. You cannot be serious.
Trust me, they might have even greater potential than Gohan does. And I've encountered some Metamorphs in the other world. They've taught me a very useful technique I think they'll like.
Cooler raised his eyebrows.
So the rumors about the fusion, they're true.
Oh, you heard about it then?
Goku tilted his head, surprised to see that Cooler would know something about this.
Well, not really, just, legends. But then again, the Super Saiyan was also meant to be a legend. And look how that turned out.
All right, I need Piccolo and you two to prepare the boys for the fight. Can you do that?
Need I remind you that I am the Emperor of this universe and not a caretaker for some children?
I would assume that Goten is the other son of yours, considering the rather similar naming scheme.
Look, I know that you're aware of how dangerous Boo can be for every single planet and for your empire. We know that neither of us is powerful enough to defeat him, and I have faith in the next generation of fighters. You should too.
Vegeta seemed eager to prepare his son, even though the Emperor could see that endearing his son had left him with mixed feelings, so the prince had been softened as well. But still, if there was one thing Cooler had learned with his time here, it was not to underestimate those soft Saiyans. After all, they had managed what their more savage kind could not do. Also, he had witnessed those people time and time again do things that seemed impossible before now. The Emperor glared at Son Goku.
Fine, I will help, but I will not go easy on them. If they are supposed to be used for weaponry, I will hone them into such.
The Saiyan nodded.
Your help will be really appreciated, Cooler.
And as they lost sight of Majin Buu, all three of them then proceeded to fly toward the lookout. Meanwhile, in a weird, cruel twist of fate, the pink monster came across a man who was giving an interview after his last victory in the World Martial Arts Tournament. His appearance scared nearly everybody, but the man himself was so paralyzed with fear, it came across as bravery. Mr. Satan didn't know what he had just got himself into. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now.